Good afternoon and welcome everybody to another edition of Pro Football Today, a holiday edition, right? Black Friday. Hope you're getting your sales in. Hope the tryptophan has worn up. I am your host, Dane Martinez, the spin statistician, and we are going to get you ready for Bears and Eagles, which will be kicking off in about an hour. We're going to talk about what happened yesterday on Turkey Day and get you ready for the rest of Week 13 in the NFL. And it is my honor and privilege to do this with my man, who I am thankful for, George Kurtz. And George has to be happy coming off Thanksgiving and being here with me because A, he doesn't have to spend more time with his family, and B, his Dallas Cowboys won again when everybody was eating their pie, and they are now kind of streaking, and some people think they can run the table, maybe even take that division in the NFC East with the Eagles playing a little bit on later on today. What's going on, George? Happy Thanksgiving. You had to love what you saw yesterday afternoon, evening.
Yes, happy Thanksgiving to everybody out there. Hope you enjoyed your turkey, your ham, or your mac and cheese, whatever you had there. I'm a turkey guy, but I'm not someone who's cares really what you have for to eat there. Hope you'll enjoy Black Friday today. If you're a shopper, good luck to you. I want nothing to do with any mortar and brick store. No, thank you. I don't think I'm leaving the house for the rest of the day, other than pick up my youngest daughter from work. So I hope everybody's enjoying here. We have the football game coming up in about an hour here. You're right. It was an interesting game anyway, right? You got Philadelphia and Chicago. I don't think Chicago's on top of that division anymore, but Philadelphia still is. And you're right, Dane. If Chicago pulls off the upset here, well, all of a sudden the NFC East doesn't play again, something we didn't think was possible, really, for most of the season here. There is that sort of 20-year thing, right? 20-plus years, no one's won that division
Right.
back-to-back years.
No repeat.
So we can play with that as well here. Listen, I think the Eagles are still going to win. I'm not all that worried about it. But you and I talked before the show here. Dallas running the table is a possibility. Of course, it's unlikely. It's unlikely for anybody to win, would it be 7 games in a row, which is what the Dallas Cowboys would have to do here. But it's certainly open here. Dallas, by the way, they play Detroit in Detroit next week. No, we don't think Amon St. Brown's going to play. And then they play Minnesota. Then they play the Chargers, both at home here. And then they finish up the season against the Commanders and Giants. So Dallas running the table and at least getting themselves into a wild card hunt is certainly not out of the question. And I say maybe because if you want to put the Cowboys in, Dane, who are we taking out?
Well, I mean, that's a good question. And then let's talk about what happened here on Thanksgiving Day and today, because we have to, in my opinion, go to that other division that was very prevalent, not only in today's game, but in yesterday's game. I've got to go looking to the NFC North. First of all, the Dallas Cowboys win that game 31-28 against the Kansas City Chiefs. I want to talk about the Kansas City side of things because as the Dallas arrow is pointed up, the Kansas City arrow is pointing down. But let's talk about what happened in the NFC North yesterday, George, with the Green Bay Packers taking out the Detroit Lions, right? 31-24. They now sweep the season series against Detroit. They also get to 8 wins. And when you talk about Dallas and you talk about Green Bay, that 40-40 tie on Sunday Night Football is going to be huge, quite frankly, George, in the NFC playoff race, right? I think Green Bay is going to be kind of buoyed maybe by that tie, the same as Dallas, because neither one of them is a loss. And when you ask who you're taking out, maybe the Detroit Lions are the answer to that question. Listen, George, coming into the season, I like Detroit. Coming into the season, I thought Detroit was a legitimate Super Bowl contender, but they are very banged up on offense, George. Sam Laporta, gone for the rest of the year. You saw Amon-Ra St. Brown, you mentioned it, dealing with an ankle injury. Reports out of Detroit is that he might miss 1 or 2 games, quote unquote, if they are lucky. So we will see. But the other thing, in my opinion, George, that's huge, over the last couple of years, the Detroit Lions offensive line was one of the best in all of football. Talking about guys like Penei Sewell and the rest. They had a retirement, and I think Ragnow's actually announcing he's coming back because they quite frankly need him. But I think under it all, the Detroit Lions offensive line, George, much like the Philadelphia Eagles offensive line, has not been at the level that it has been the last couple of years. And that could be the little margin of error. And when so many teams are so tight in the NFC, I think that is a big deal. So when you ask me the question, who might I be kicking out? I think the answer could be Detroit, especially if Amon-Ra St. Brown has to miss any time. But the Packers took them out yesterday, George. What do you think about the first game on Thanksgiving? Packers 31-24.
I thought the game. I wasn't expecting the shootout it was. So I was on the under, so that let you know what I thought there. But I did think the Packers would win the game. I just thought they're a better team in Detroit right now. I think you brought up a very key factor there. That Detroit offensive line is not what it used to be. There was a time we thought this was the best offensive line in football. It's
Right.
not anymore, especially up the middle here, which once again is Wyatt Ragnow. I guess it's attempting a comeback. Maybe he's up ready for Thursday's game against the Cowboys. Maybe the week after that here. The problem, though, is we're saying we're taking Detroit out. Well, they're already out. They're not in the playoff spot right now. All right, you want to take somebody else out. And that's the problem for the Cowboys getting a wild card spot or Detroit getting a wild card spot. Because who are we taking out? San Fran? The schedule is pretty nice for them. I don't see them missing out.
Yeah.
Green Bay? Well, they just beat you twice. All right, and they tied the Cowboys there. So they have a game and a half lead over Dallas there. And they have a tiebreak over Detroit. Seattle? Damn good team. Right, damn good team, 8-3 there. So that's going to be the problem for the Cowboys. All the Lions here, all the Carolina Panthers. We're going to talk about them. Is trying to win that wild card spot. Who are we removing? And I don't know if we have a team to remove there. So the division, as scary as it sounds, if I'm a Cowboy fan, and I am, boy, go Bears, go today, because winning the division might be the
Right.
easier road than winning a wild card spot.
No, that is fair. The division path might be the way to go. And like you mentioned, right, there has been no repeat champion in this division, I think maybe this millennium, to be quite honest. And then, George, let's talk about what happened last night in the final game of Thanksgiving. Maybe people had already succumbed to the tryptophan and did not see the final game. I would actually say it was also the worst of the three games. The big headline from this was Joe Burrow makes his return for the Cincinnati Bengals, and he looks like Joe Burrow usually does, especially against that Baltimore Ravens defense. They win 32-14. And let me tell you something here, George. This Cincinnati Bengals defense, who is performing at a historic level in terms of points per game allowed, right? The Cincinnati Bengals, they put up a graphic last night on the telecast. They've lost something like 6 games over the last 2 years when they scored 33 or more points. That tells you about this defense. But for me, this is a little bit more on the Baltimore side, because with Lamar Jackson back, they had won like 3 straight, but they did not look good. And I have the same kind of questions about now if the Ravens are in fact a playoff team. This division, the AFC North, depends on what Pittsburgh does, but they got a tough game against the Bills. You could be in a universe where you wake up on Monday and both Pittsburgh and Baltimore have only 6 wins, and then the Bengals, now with Burrow back, have only 4 wins, yet both of them still on the schedule. George, 8-9 could win this division.
Yeah, listen, great for Burrow. I mean, Burrow looked good last night, right? Him throwing on the
Yep.
ball is just it's great to see here, especially in the primetime game. We all got to watch that, and he looked really good without T. Higgins. Baltimore, though, I mean, what a disappointment all across the board here. Whether you're a fan, if you're a gambler, or a fantasy player, I mean, what the hell? I mean, what was that? All the turnovers there, right? Lamar Jackson, the old what was that? When you bring the ball, whatever they used to call that dumb rule there, tuck rule, right?
Right.
Thank God they got rid of that, but he fumbled the ball on
Likely
that. Then he had
fumbling out of the end zone.
Likely that and by the way, people who are yelling at Likely that he was trying to reach. He really wasn't trying to reach. He was trying to get really change hands there. I don't really blame him for that. Great play by the defense. Sometimes you need to say, hey, credit the defense. They made a really good play there. But once again, I know people hate that rule. By the way, I don't. All right, hey, you fumble out of the end zone, too damn bad. Be better at it. Let's give the defense some credit here. We don't give them any breaks here, but really disappointing in Baltimore. And I think you're right. Cincinnati's not dead. They're not. Do I think they're going to do it? No. But as you just brought up, 8-9 could do it. None of these teams are good. All right, Pittsburgh's not good. Could lose Sunday very easily to Buffalo, although Buffalo's got no offensive line left. All right, and then we'll see what Baltimore and Cincinnati can do here. But it should be I'll go an interesting stretch in the AFC North.
All right, fair enough. And just like you talked about with Dallas, who would you take out? Let's have the same conversation in the AFC, because now, if you look at those graphics, you got Baltimore on the outside looking in, as well as one of these teams that lost yesterday that we necessarily have to talk about. Could the dynasty be done in Kansas City? We will do that when we come back. Pro Football Today, Dane Martinez and George Kurtz. We'll talk about that, and we'll get you ready for Eagles Bears when we come back right here on the Grid.
He's the fan favorite. They love talking about Stafford, the 38-year-old guy. He's the Super Bowl champ. We got the family. Any opportunity to pump McVay and Stafford as a team, they do that. They love this team. They loved Aaron Donald, and rightfully so. Best defensive player, but they love to pump up Stafford.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
When you look at Duke, you got to look at Cam Boozer. 18 points. The Bruiser, I may call him. 18 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists. I know he shot the ball 1 of 4 from 3, but he's showing his ability to really be a different player than his dad. A little bit more dynamic, a little bit more athletic.
College Basketball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Ashton Genty has been hit behind the line of scrimmage more than any player in the National Football League. Yep. So you just gave him the ball in the end zone. Do the math. How's that going to work out?
It's like what I
He
said
got hit
earlier.
behind the line of scrimmage. He got tackled in the end zone.
Line. Yeah.
Oh, they're terrible. But the thing is, Brady, you draft offensive linemen before you draft a star running back. Like they went backwards.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Goff and Mahomes were never taken serious. Kurtz won't be even if they're the 1 seed. Jonathan Taylor plays running back. Stop. Mahomes lost the head-to-head to Josh. Can I confidently eliminate every single person booked behind Josh Allen to at least beat out Josh Allen? So I'm in a head-to-head with Stafford May?
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back in, everybody. Pro Football Today rolls on a Black Friday. Hopefully you're getting your deals in. And what better way to make a little bit of extra cash to maybe shop for the fam than by betting on this game? We'll give you our best bets and our picks for this game on Bears-Eagles in a little bit later on this hour. But, George, I wanted to ask you, we did the kind of good side of it with Dallas and how they are rolling. I mean, the arrow is pointing the complete opposite way for the, Kansas City Chiefs. It has been known, the AFC Championship game over the last, 7 years has been the Arrowhead Invitational, quite frankly. And I don't think they're going to get there. You see the odds right there at 17-1. They are now down at 6-6. They're at 500. You were just talking about Dallas. Like, who would they bump out? Well, listen, the Chiefs would have to bump someone out after this. And when I look at the rest of the wild card standings, George, I see teams like Buffalo. I see teams like the Chargers. I see teams like the Jags. And you know what they all have in common? They have beaten the Chiefs heads up. So they would lose all the tiebreakers to those teams. They're, in essence, 2 games now out of a playoff spot. And quite frankly, George, for me, you remember how last year there was something like 12-0 in one-score games, and everyone was talking about, the refs and the blocked field goals and Isaiah Likely's foot being too big and things like that. This all regresses to the mean eventually. I think there's something like 0-6 this year in one-score games. And quite frankly, I don't care if it's Andy Reid. I don't care if it's Patrick Mahomes. They look like an average football team, George.
They're not getting the breaks. I'm not going to go telling you, the refs were on the Chiefs and they wear Chief jerseys and all that. All right, they've got all the breaks last year, right? Refs are not. This year, not so much, right? Like I said, I don't think it's a ref thing. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, hey, sometimes you get the break, sometimes you don't. This year, the breaks seem to be going against them. It happened to be true in the Cowboy game yesterday as well here. The calls seem to go more the Cowboys' way. That fumble by George Pickens, there's 18 Chiefs there, but Turpin gets the one Cowboy that's in the area. That happens in football. Now, they're in trouble. I'm not going to tell you they're not, all right? They're probably on life support here. And you're right, they're in 9th place right now. They would need to climb over 2 teams. But one of those teams they play next week. All right? That's Houston. You win that game, okay. You got past that. You got the tiebreaker. Now, everything you said is true. This is the old lies, damn lies, statistics, right? Because you got to pass one of the Chargers, Jaguars, Bills. You lost each. But you play the Chargers yet. You win that game, that tiebreaker goes away. Now it'll go down to divisional record, all right? Conference record. We'll see how that plays out for you. So they're not dead. They're in trouble. They're not dead. All right. Yes, you lost to Buffalo, and I don't know what's the Buffalo Pittsburgh game Sunday is very interesting. I wasn't joking earlier. The Buffalo's no offensive lineup. They're missing 3 starters for that game. Deion Dawkins is out with a concussion, I believe, there. So they're in trouble there. So it could be interesting. I don't trust Jacksonville, by the way, at all. All right, I don't trust them as far as I can bowl them. So they're not dead here. And the schedule, by the way, for the Chiefs, it's ahead of you. You're behind the Texans, you play with Texans. You're behind the Chargers, you play the Chargers. You're behind the Broncos, you play the Broncos. So it's there for you. It is there for you. Your other 2 games, by the way, are gimmies. All right. And by the way, all 3 of those games I just mentioned at home, at Arrowhead. Not bad. No, listen.
So let me ask you this.
I'm just saying is they're not dead, and I wouldn't mind placing a couple of bucks on them to get in the playoffs because of the schedule. The 2 gimme games are Tennessee and the Raiders on the road. I'll take that.
So let me ask you this, because I don't disagree with you, right? I'm not going to count them out until mathematically they are out, right? Because I've just seen it before too many times. I also agree with you that I'm not necessarily a believer in the Jacksonville Jaguars, right? But if I had to press you and you had to pick either the Chiefs or the Ravens to actually make the field, which one would you have more confidence in? Because literally, 13-1, 17-1, you see those kind of odds for the conference there. I'll tell you what, if either one of those teams get in, right? And we're talking about Patty Mahomes at the Chargers or at Denver or at New England, I'd be very interested to see what the bookmakers come up with, because the idea, we are programmed to think that Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, these dudes are the alphas in the AFC. Do you think they would be able to kind of make a run? And who could get in?
I think if you're asking which team I would bet on to make the playoffs, it would have to be Baltimore because of the division, right? Pittsburgh's not very good. Cincinnati's maybe too far behind. So I would probably bet on Baltimore of the 2. All right. But if you're asking me which is the better team, it's Kansas City. Pat Mahomes is playing well. All right. He was great yesterday. All right. He was really good. We had a couple of plays, to get out of trouble there and extending plays. We don't really probably give him enough credit for that. He's not Josh Allen or he's not Lamar Jackson, but he was very good at it yesterday. And Lamar's not playing well. Right? He's just not. I don't know what's happened since the injury there, but he doesn't look good at all. Missing receivers. The whole team doesn't look good. So I think Baltimore has a better chance to make it because of their division. I don't trust Pittsburgh at all here. Aaron Rodgers, by the way, should play on Sunday. I don't know if that's good or bad, but he should play Sunday. So I think Baltimore has the better chance because of Pittsburgh and the women's division, but Kansas City's the better team. All right, so that's the way I would go with that there. That being said, it's a good chance neither one of them makes the playoffs. And if you were to tell me that there'll be no Mahomes, no Josh Allen, there's a chance, once again, that Josh Allen doesn't get the playoffs either here. Although, once again, I think they're in a spot right now. So they're in the last spot, so they would have to lose this week. And then no Lamar Jackson. Just wild here that none of these teams may make the playoffs there. So I think once again it's going to be an interesting finish here. But I'm not ready to bury the Chiefs yet. I think they're in trouble, absolutely, but I'm not ready to bury them yet. Teams we haven't talked about, the Chargers, by the way, they also have no offensive line. All right, they're going to have trouble winning games down the stretch here. I don't know when Hampton's going to come back. Right? Is he going to be this week, next week? We'll see what he can do to revitalize that running game somewhat. But they're far from a great team too. Jacksonville. Anybody really think it's just going to be Trevor Lawrence? He's going to be the guy. No. All right. He's been so or inconsistent all season long. They should get Brian Thomas back this week, which should help. But remember, Thomas, I know it's more of a fantasy thing, but coming into the season, I was worried about him because all those numbers he put up last year, that was not with Trevor Lawrence. All right, that was with the backups after Lawrence got hurt there. So him and Lawrence still don't seem to be on the same page, not on a game in, game out basis. So that would concern me as well there. The bottom line is this: I don't trust any of these teams. All right, New England, fantastic. I wouldn't be surprised if New England gets the number 1 seed. They'll get they'll have a bye week wild card round. Their first playoff game wouldn't shock me if they're a dog at home. Denver, another team. It's really the NFL. There are no great teams. There are a bunch of good teams, solid teams, but not great. Indianapolis, we find out that Daniel Jones has a fracture in his leg. What does that mean? He wasn't playing all that well the last couple of weeks. I assume he's had this for a while now, and that they haven't told us here, but he hasn't been playing all that well. And now you're playing a Houston defense this week? Good luck to you. That would seem like a loss to me. And they'll be back in the maybe Houston's going to win that division, and they're in the wild card hunt. So it's just a mess, which is good for the NFL. They want parity. Well, they got it. because like I said, there is no great team here. We'll be back. Pro Football Today. Dane Martinez, George Kurtz, right back with you after this.
He's the fan favorite. They love talking about Stafford, the 38-year-old guy. He's the Super Bowl champ. We got the family. Any opportunity to pump McVay and Stafford as a team, they do that. They love this team. They love Aaron Donald, and rightfully so. Best defensive player, but they love to pump up Stafford.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
When you look at Duke, you got to look at Cam Boozer. 18 points. The Bruiser, I may call him. 18 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists. I know he shot the ball 1 of 4 from 3, but he's showing his ability to really be a different player than his dad. A little bit more dynamic, a little bit more athletic.
College Basketball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Ashton Genty has been hit behind the line of scrimmage more than any player in the National Football League.
Yep.
So you just gave him the ball in the end zone. Do the math. How's that going to work out?
It's like what I
He got
said
hit
earlier.
behind the line of
worst problem
scrimmage.
on
He got
this team is
tackled in the
offensive
end zone.
line. Yeah.
Oh, they're terrible. But the thing
No
is,
surprise.
Brady, you draft offensive linemen before you draft a star running back. Like they went backwards.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Goff and Mahomes were never taken serious. Kurtz won't be even if they're the 1 seed. Jonathan Taylor plays running back. Stop. Mahomes lost the head-to-head to Josh. Can I confidently eliminate every single person booked behind Josh Allen to at least beat out Josh Allen? So I'm in a head-to-head with Stafford May?
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back, Pro Football Today on this Black Friday. If you're getting your shopping in there, good luck there. Me, I'm not a shopper. I leave that to the wife. And like I said, I want nothing to do with the mortar and brick store today. I don't want to do anything in the mortar and brick store on a normal day. This is what Amazon's for. I'm not doing any shopping here. I'm George Kurtz. Dane Martinez will be back with us. We have the game on Black Friday. I, for one, like these games. I know some people don't. Like my brother hates it because he has to work today, so he can't watch the game. At least not live anyway here. But I enjoy the game today. But I like as many standalone games as possible, just easier to pay attention to. And it's a big game. Let's not kid each other. It's a big game here at the link. Chicago Bears, they come in 8-3, first place in the division. They lose this game, they will no longer be in first place in the division. They'll be 8-4. The Packers will be a half game ahead. They'll be 8-3-1. So this is an important game for the Chicago Bears. Philadelphia Eagles, we talked about it earlier. First place in the NFC East, which they probably thought was a foregone conclusion, a couple of weeks ago. Now, might be a little bit of play here. Might be. As a Cowboy fan, I certainly hope it is here. We talked earlier, no one's won the NFC East in back-to-back seasons since, I think, 03-04. Eagles are trying to break that streak. Obviously, they won it last year, and they're trying to win it again this year. We're looking at the schedule here for the Philadelphia Eagles. I understand it's a huge if here, but if they were to lose today, they play with Chargers next week in LA, chance for a loss there. All right. The problem with the Cowboy fans is that, then they get the Raiders, then the Commanders. All right. They do play at Buffalo in week 17. That could be a tough one. And then they finish up against the Commanders again. All right. By the way, that's terrible scheduling by the NFL. You should not be playing a division opponent 2 of the last 3 weeks. Really not fair for one or the other there. As much as I think it might be fun for a Cowboy fan, they're not going to lose the division. Eagles still win. They may not get the number 1 seed. That's something else to talk about here, but they're not going to lose the division. As of today's game, Bears come in. Likely, they've seen the problems that the Eagles have. They saw the problems that the Eagles have with Dallas's 5-man front last week. Remember, Dallas is playing a different kind of defense here because they have 3 excellent defensive tackles. They really don't have great defensive ends, but with Kenny Brown, Quinnen Williams, and the name I'm not going to try and pronounce, they're OC, they have 3 great defensive tackles, so they're playing 5 wide, which is Philadelphia admitted they just hadn't seen that, hadn't practiced against it, and weren't very good at stopping it here, especially as the game went along there. So once again, that could be something Chicago looks at to do. Saquon Barkley. Obviously, he has had his issues. For whatever reason, hasn't been Saquon Barkley this year. Maybe he's dealing with an injury they haven't told us about. Maybe, he's just, Dane, Saquon had 1,000,000 carries last year, 1,000,000 touches here. Maybe that's part of the reason he hasn't been Saquon this year. And I found it hilarious last week with A.J. Brown with his own problems. Let's throw Saquon under the bus too. If I'm Saquon, it's like, keep my name out of your mouth here. You want to talk to the media, deal with your own problems. Don't throw me here. I got my own issues here. I don't need you making problems for me either.
I think so. I don't think he was trying to necessarily throw Saquon under the bus. I actually think he was just trying to say, well, overall, we're a much better team. And, if you're going to throw me shade, you got to do it to Saquon as well. I think that got mixed up a little bit. I actually think this is a bounce back spot for Saquon because of the Bears' run defense. The Bears' run defense has been piss poor all season long, in my opinion, George. I'm talking about yards per carry allowed before contact, explosive runs allowed, right? I actually think this is a bounce back spot for Saquon Barkley, and he is one of my props for this game. I actually like Saquon over 16.5 yards for his longest rush. I think you can go over on him. I know it has been bad, but I think they have actually, they just came off that loss against Dallas, and I think that the Bears' run defense can be had. I think you have a fuming Saquon Barkley who actually fumbled, which is something he does not do. And I know you said this earlier, George, you expect the Eagles to win this game, as do I. I think the game script will also be there for Saquon Barkley. I actually think this is a recipe for a bounce back for Saquon Barkley, despite the fact that he has only gone over 60 yards rushing 3 times so far this season. I like him to have a good game against a bad Bears run defense, George.
Yeah, I'm with you here because everything tells us that he should have a good game, right? But it's almost like, Dane, I sort of need to see it before I start betting on it. The offensive line is banged up in Philadelphia. No Lane Johnson, right? I think that's a huge loss. He's a future Hall of Famer. So it is a loss there. But the most important thing, you already said it, that Chicago run defense. You and I might have some success toting the rock there. So, I think I certainly wouldn't bet against it. Either I leave it alone or I'm taking the over on Barkley as well. And we know they would like to get him established. Because exactly. They're not going to win. They're not going to go repeat here. Sorry, Kevin Walsh, without Barkley performing at top level.
Yeah, here's the thing for me. The Chicago Bears allow explosive runs of 10 or more yards 14% of the time, George. That is the 5th worst rate in the NFL. And like the yards per contact, before contact as well. If you get Saquon going, I think he's going to pop a big one, if you want to know the truth. We're going to continue to talk about this game. I think there's some other metrics here that are actually in the Philadelphia side. And quite frankly, this prime matchup is old hat for the Philadelphia Eagles, not so much for Caleb Williams, Ben Johnson, and this edition of the Chicago Bears. We'll see. We'll talk about it more when we come back. Dane Martinez and George Kurtz right here on Pro Football Today on the Grid.
He's the fan favorite. They love talking about Stafford, the 38-year-old guy. He's the Super Bowl champ. We got the family. Any opportunity to pump McVay and Stafford as a team, they do that. They love this team. They love Aaron Donald, and rightfully so. Best defensive player, but they love to pump up Stafford.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
When you look at Duke, you got to look at Cam Boozer. 18 points. The Bruiser, I may call him. 18 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists. I know he shot the ball 1 of 4 from 3, but he's showing his ability to really be a different player than his dad. A little bit more dynamic, a little bit more athletic.
College Basketball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Ashton Jeanty has been hit behind the line of scrimmage more than any player in the National Football League. Yep. So you just gave him the ball in the end zone. Do the math. How's that going to work out?
It's like what I
He
said
got hit
earlier.
behind the line of scrimmage. He got tackled in the end zone.
Yeah.
Oh, they're terrible. But the thing is, Brady, you draft offensive linemen before you draft a star running back. Like they went backwards.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Goff and Mahomes were never taken serious. Kurtz won't be even if they're the 1 seed. Jonathan Taylor plays running back. Stop. Mahomes lost the head-to-head to Josh. Can I confidently eliminate every single person booked behind Josh Allen to at least beat out Josh Allen? So I'm in a head-to-head with Stafford May?
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back in, everybody, to Pro Football Today. Dane, Martinez, and George Kurtz. And George, as we look at this game, I wanted to bring up one other thing that I think maybe changes the equation for the Bears. The Bears actually lead the NFL in terms of takeaways, right? They have something like 24 takeaways on the season. Meanwhile, the Philadelphia Eagles, they don't give the ball up. The Eagles offense has only committed 6 turnovers or giveaways so far this season. And when you look at the Bears, right, they had that crazy comeback against the Cincinnati Bengals, big time comeback against the New York Football Giants, big comeback in their last game as well, I believe, against the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't think they're going to be able to come back in this one against Philly. Why? Because in order to do that, you usually need the turnover luck to go your way. And while that has happened for the Bears, I don't necessarily think that happens against these Eagles in Philadelphia. I mentioned also Saquon Barkley fumbled last week. He doesn't usually do that. You know what I mean? So I think we're going to get the best of Saquon. And I also don't think we can count on the turnover luck continuing to go Chicago's way in this one, George.
I'm kind of with you there. Philadelphia generally doesn't turn the ball over all that much. Their offense is very vanilla. It's been a complaint also. It's really A.J. Brown's complaint, right? It's very predictable. You sort of know what they're going to do, which, by the way, sometimes can work fine. I'm a Cowboy fan. The Cowboys back in the 90s with Emmitt Smith have like 6 running plays. That's it. All right. If you can stop us, stop us. If you can't, can't.
Right.
And Philadelphia is sort of the same thing there. If you can stop us, great. The problem is they have been getting them stopped, right? And they haven't adjusted from that. That's why we keep hearing all the Sirianni questions, all the offensive coordinator questions. All right. The team really does seem to miss Kellen Moore. All right. So there's a sort of a disconnect there. And it's something where the Eagles really can work on the rest of the season here to figure things out. Now, they did, especially in the first half, light it up against the Cowboys last week, right? A.J. Brown, well, problems seem to be fixed. He looked really good against the Cowboys. Now, Devonta Smith's banged up, right? I know he's practicing. He's banged up coming into the game. He's always banged up, by the way. It seems like whenever he goes up for a pass,
he's a small man, George. He's a small man.
He's not the biggest of guys, but he's going to play. He's going to be fine. The bottom line is this. You can't rely on the turnovers. Sure, you might get them. You might get lucky. And I'm not saying the Bears aren't better at doing the Peanut Tillman punch outs better than everybody else. Maybe they are, but it is somewhat luck involved here. When the ball's on the ground, they have to bounce towards you and not away from you. That sort of thing here. But it's hard to rely on that game in, game out. It just is. I think my favorite bet in this game, by the way, might be Caleb Williams rushing, because I think they're going to get pressure on him. He's going to have to keep those chains moving. And he's going to have to use his legs, which he's been doing more and more as the season goes along here. So I kind of like him to do that again. It's a big game. Can't say that this is a big game for both teams here. Bears lose. They're not in first place anymore. Eagles lose. They give the Cowboys some hope of a division here. So it is a big game here. Plus, the Eagles want that number 1 seed in the NFC anyway. So they want to win. As I brought up the schedule earlier, the Eagles, next couple of weeks are tough. They still got the Commanders twice here and the Raiders once. The Eagles are going to be just fine, mind you, but they still want to get things rolling in the right direction here. I'm sort of liking what you're saying with Saquon Barkley here. The more and more I think about it, they got to get him going. And today may be the first game of Barkley looking like the Barkley of old.
Yeah, and here's the other thing I think about, right? You talk about it. Both of these teams come in as 8-3. That's why we talked about what happened in the NFC North yesterday, what happened in the NFC East yesterday. But going back to my point about the turnovers, like the Bears, and hey, you are what your record says you are. But some of those crazy comebacks that were aided by turnovers, right? I just named 3 games. If instead of 8-3, they come into this one 5-6, you're like, they're just developing. What about Ben Johnson his rookie year? Is Caleb really making that stretch? I like what you're saying about the Caleb Williams rushing prop. The other way, I'm kind of attacking the same philosophy, let's say, as you, George, is Caleb Williams to throw an interception in this game is -105. I think he is going to be under pressure. I think they are going to be down in this game. And the other part about it, this is a little bit more like last year. I will say that last year they gave up a ton of sacks, right? I think Caleb was sacked most in the league. This year they've cleaned that up a bunch. He's been sacked only 16 or 17 times, 4th fewest in the NFL. But there will be a point in this game, in my opinion, where Caleb might have to revert back to that kind of schoolyard football that he likes to play, extending plays, trying to do a little bit too much. And that is hard against this Philadelphia Eagles secondary. The Eagles allow a 57% completion rate against them. That is the lowest in the NFL. It is tough to throw against these Philadelphia Eagles, or at least complete passes. And when I put this all together, I think Eagles are going to get up early, getting Saquon going. They do not turn the ball over much. And to me, that's going to force this to be on the arm of Caleb Williams with an Eagles front that can get pressure. To your point, one way around that is Caleb Williams scrambling, using his legs. My point, though, George, is that Caleb Williams may force some things like we've seen him do in his career. I think he throws a pick today, George.
Oh, I like where you're going with this. Matter of fact, I more than like it because I can also throw in that, well, we expect Philadelphia to be ahead in the second half, right? Maybe by multiple scores. Therefore, he has to throw the ball more, right? And he's got to take some chances, right? And one thing that's bothered me this year about the quarterback throwing an interception, this is throughout the league, by the way, has nothing to do with the Bears or the Eagles for that matter. Is it me, Dane, or are we not getting the Hail Marys at the end of halves anymore? Very rarely are we getting. Maybe it's because field kickers can kick the ball 90 yards.
I'll kick a 67-yard field goal instead.
Right, so, right, maybe that's why. But it's just we're not getting that, and I bring that up because that was always, hey, he might throw the interception at the half, and we'll go cash our bet that way. But it just seems like we're not getting that as much anymore for whatever reason. And I now that I think about it, it probably is because of the strength of the field goal kickers there. But I like where you're going with that as well. Here, that makes a ton of sense to me because once again, game script. From what my theory is, that they're going to be trailing. Maybe by 10 points, 14 points in the second half, got to throw the ball and better chance for interception. The Eagles have a good secondary. Let's not kid each other. Cooper DeJean there, good secondary here. And they've got a better pass rush than when at that trade with Miami, so they can get to the quarterback as well. I do want to give some flowers to Chicago, by the way. You sort of said it earlier. They're probably not an 8-3 team. All right. You've gotten some breaks going your way. But, hey, you're not the team you were last year either. Remember last year on Thanksgiving where Eberflus wouldn't call a timeout? It's like, what the hell's going on here? Gus Johnson's fixed all of that, right? There's no longer a jailbreak where Caleb Williams is running for his life as soon as he says hike. All right. He's what I'm trying to say is they're heading in the right direction, which is great, right? Because the Bears have been a joke for a long time now, but they're heading in the right direction. So good for them. As much as I want it to be, I'm a Cowboy fan, right? You can see that over my left shoulder here, but I don't see this being their day. I just don't.
Right. I think, and that's the thing, and I agree with you. They're moving in the right direction. But George, there's levels to this, right? You can take that step. I don't think they're really an 8-3 team. Maybe they're a 500 team, and that still is a good mark for Ben Johnson in year number one if they're going in the right direction. But they've gotten a bunch of turnover luck, and I really think that is a big deal here. They have the most takeaways in all of football. I think that is what changes this. You're going to need extra possessions because I think straight up in this kind of standalone national spotlight game against the Philadelphia Eagles, an Eagles team who has achieved the levels to this, who are more of a blue blood team, who do see that the Cowboys are now closer than they appear in their rearview mirror, right? I think this is the big time spot where the Eagles handle their business. And the other thing, George, and I want to tell everybody about this, I always say we're not just giving you a fish, we're teaching you how to fish. George and I are both putting together what we think the blueprint, what we think the game plan, what we think it's going to look like. We both think the Eagles are going to get up in this game, and what that means is the game script will change and put more pressure on Caleb Williams, whether that's him having to scramble, whether that's him forcing things and throwing the interception. And George, real quick, that's part of why I also like the Saquon Barkley rushing props today, because I think they are going to not only get him going early, but the same game script that has you thinking Caleb is going to run and force mistakes is the same game script that's going to have in the second half, in the fourth quarter, Saquon Barkley with an extra 8 carries trying to run it out.
Yeah, it works both ways, right? Kill the clock, give Barkley there. I think the Eagles, a lot of ways, would like to win this game, move on. Not like they want to destroy the Bears. They don't care. All right, win the game, move on, take your 9 days off until next week. All right, get the extra rest there. So I agree with that philosophy as well. Once again, it's what we have to do. We have to think how the game is, how we believe the game is going to go. It looks like you and I are both on the same page. I don't want to say it's going to be 38-3. I don't expect that, but I think it's going to be somewhere, 31-21, easy kind of, I think the Eagles fully well are in control of the game in the second half. They know they're going to win. Let's win the game, move on, get out of here, take our rest, and get on with the rest of the season.
Yeah, I'm with you. We'll give everybody our best bets on this game a little while. Remember, it is a 7-point spread. Do we think they cover that number? The total is 44.5 at last check. We'll talk about that at the end of the show, but this is a lot of games in week 13. As for the playoffs, we'll take a look at some of the games we like on the Sunday slate when we come back right here on the grid. It is George Kurtz and Dane Martinez. We've been alluding to a couple of teams that we don't necessarily love, that we don't necessarily believe in. George, I am with you, and I am going to be going the other way in a couple of games. We'll talk about that in week 13 when we come back right here on the grid.
He's the fan favorite. They love talking about Stafford, the 38-year-old guy. He's the Super Bowl champ. We got the family. Any opportunity to pump McVay and Stafford as a team, they do that. They love this team. They love Aaron Donald, and rightfully so. Best defensive player, but they love to pump up Stafford.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
When you look at Duke, you got to look at Cam Boozer. 18 points. The Bruiser, I may call him. 18 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists. I know he shot the ball 1 of 4 from 3, but he's showing his ability to really be a different player than his dad. A little bit more dynamic, a little bit more athletic.
College Basketball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Ashton Genty has been hit behind the line of scrimmage more than any player in the National Football League. Yep. So you just gave him the ball in the end zone. Do the math. How's that going to work out?
It's like what I
He
said
got hit
earlier.
behind the line of scrimmage. He got tackled in the end zone.
Yeah.
Oh, they're terrible. But the thing is, Brady, you draft offensive linemen before you draft a star running back. Like they went backwards.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Goff and Mahomes were never taken serious. Kurtz won't be even if they're the 1 seed. Jonathan Taylor plays running back. Stop. Mahomes lost the head-to-head to Josh. Can I confidently eliminate every single person booked behind Josh Allen to at least beat out Josh Allen? So I'm in a head-to-head with Stafford May?
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Pro Football Today. Dane Martinez and George Kurtz. And George, I've been talking about not only today, but this Week 13 slate that is really interesting. There's a couple of games I have my eye on. We've been talking about that AFC playoff picture. Lamar Jackson on the outside looking in, Patty Mahomes on the outside looking in. And we talked about the Houston Texans. I like the Houston Texans on Sunday, George, against an Indianapolis Colts team, a Colts team that, listen, they were gangbusters at the beginning of the year, scoring over 30 points a game, but it looks like the blueprint is out a little bit on the Colts. I think if you try to sell out to stop Jonathan Taylor and put the ball in the arms of Indiana Jones, who, by the way, somehow, George, is on a broken leg. Did you see this? A fractured fibula of all things. I think that is a bit of a concern. This Houston Texans defense, one of the best in the league, allowing only 16 points a game. They have been hot lately. They have the extra rest, if you remember, coming off the Thursday night against Buffalo. And they get C.J. Stroud back, clearing the concussion protocol. It is 3.5 points in a division matchup. Weird things happen in the AFC South, George. I like the Texans with the points 3.5 to further complicate the AFC South and the AFC wildcard picture.
I would love to fight with you here, but I can't. I completely agree. Again here, fractured fibula.
And how is he playing?
That sounds bad.
Like a broken leg, George.
I mean, was it Jack Youngblood? When you be an older fan like me, when he played in the playoffs in the Super Bowl with a broken leg.
Well, I get it. Leg.
Yeah, and I get their different definitions. It could be a small little fracture, maybe whatever, but that doesn't sound good. And by the way, part of Daniel Jones is what he does well, run. Does that mean he can no longer do that? So he's a statue in the pocket. He's not been throwing the ball well lately. He hasn't. So and by the way, I'm not saying they lost last week because of Jones. It really wasn't. It was a combination of Jones, the play calling, and maybe taking your foot off the gas, whatever. They had all sorts of issues there. So weird situation here, but I'm with you. Give me all Houston. All right. Stroud is back, by the way, for those who didn't realize. He's out of the coach program. He's playing. He's starting. So we are going to get both starting quarterbacks here. That Houston defense, legit. Maybe number one in the NFL, right? They're right there with Denver, a couple other teams that are there as well here. But I'm with you. In my mind, it's one of those. Either I'm betting Houston or I'm leaving it alone. I'm certainly not taking Indianapolis. I need to see more because if I'm Houston, Dane, I'm selling out to stop Jonathan Taylor.
That's what I'm saying.
Daniel, prove to me you can beat me. Until you do, 8 men in the box, 9 men in the box. I mean, I am stopping Jonathan
That's what
Taylor.
happens. Absolutely. But I'm like you say, I sell out to stop Jonathan Taylor and that front of the Houston Texans, right? I mean, Will Anderson and Hunter, they can get after Daniel Jones with just 4, in my opinion. They bring the heat, they bring that pressure. So that's one. And then you talked about how you don't believe in Jacksonville. I tell you, funny things happen in the AFC South. I understand the Tennessee Titans are the worst team in all of football, but they are at home and they are getting 6.5 points against the Jacksonville Jaguars, okay? And listen, Seattle, who is a far better team, George, went in there and only won by 6 points. The Houston Texans, who are hot, went into Tennessee, won 16-13. I'm not saying Jacksonville can't win that game, but I do not see Jacksonville going away by a margin. I will take the divisional home dog with 6.5 points. Yes, I know they're the worst team in football, but part of me doesn't believe in Jacksonville. And I also think this narrative about opening up the AFC wildcard picture could really happen. Give me 6.5 in an ugly, low-scoring, like 19-14 kind of game, George.
All right, first off, I've got the Las Vegas Raiders on line 1. They want to talk to you about the worst team in football. All right.
Well, listen, the Raiders, the Giants, the Jets, there's the Saints, for goodness sakes. There is a competition, but technically they have the number 1 pick right now with only 1 win.
But the Giants are okay. Let's leave the Giants alone there. At least, listen, we live in New York. The Giants are watchable. All right, with Jackson Dart, they're watchable. Okay, I'm not so sure the Titans and the Raiders are. For me, those are 2 worst teams. New Orleans is probably there as well, but I'm just making fun there. Anyway, Jacksonville. Yeah, all right, they're gonna win. All right, it's Tennessee. They're not going to lose this game. First thing I'm doing is I'm looking here at the Jacksonville schedule here. All right, they play Indianapolis next week. Here we go again. I mean, we'll see what Daniel Jones is like.
Still not over.
No, it's not. Then they get the Jets.
Indy twice and Denver, Jacksonville has. I don't know if I believe in them to get to. They're going to need to get to 10. I don't know if they can.
Oh, boy, what do they got right now? They got 7. If they can't get to 10 with this schedule, you play Tennessee twice, the Jets,
and
Indianapolis twice, and Hobble Daniels, whatever he's going to be. You got to take care of business. All right, you want to be a playoff team. You want to convince me you got to beat the Jets. You got to beat Tennessee twice. That gets you 10 right there. All right, and I think you have to beat Indianapolis at least one of those games. Denver, I don't think you're beating Denver in Denver. I don't see that happening there. But like I said, you want to convince me, just take care of business. Tennessee twice, the Jets, that's taking care of business. Those are the teams you have to beat. All right, and by the way, I'm not saying that'll get you to the playoffs. We'll see. We would like to think double digits get you in. It may not. It may not. You may lose some tiebreakers there. We'll see how it goes there. But they should take care of business this week here against the Tennessee Titans, who, by the way, Cam Ward looked pretty good last week. Yeah. Right? I mean, he doesn't have a lot around him. I know that. There's not much there. You and I are fantasy guys. We're not dying to start anybody on Tennessee. Nope. But at least he looks somewhat here. But I do like Jacksonville this week, yes.
All right, fair enough. I also think the Minnesota Vikings are going to struggle to score against Seattle. J.J. McCarthy has not looked good. Their team total is around 14.5. I don't know if they get 2 touchdowns. They haven't gotten to 20 points in about a month. Is there anything else on the board? Sunday, you've been talking about big games on Sunday. Is there anything you're looking at, George? I know you've been talking about Buffalo and Pittsburgh for a while. That could be an interesting game. Anything that strikes your fancy on Sunday?
Well, you and I talked earlier. It looks like Baker Mayfield is going to play. Listen, I don't know if he finishes the game. I have no idea. I mean, we can put Daniel Jones in this category as well. They're going to start. Will they finish? I don't know. It's hard not to like Brissett. I mean, the guy throws 800 passes a game here. Right, he has no choice. Benson's not coming back. For those who didn't hear the news today, so I'm going to like a lot of Brissett's props on Sunday there. We'll see if they're going to win the game here. Though I would probably take the points at 4.5 because the Tampa obviously is a little out of sorts anyway. Irving's back in this game. So for those who like that running, but Tucker's been okay. So I don't know if that's a big addition there. But we'll see how that goes here. And I'm probably not playing any Tampa wide receiver props. I'm leaving that alone.
Listen, for fantasy purposes, I think the return of Bucky Irving actually compromises all of them because Sean Tucker, Rashad White, Bucky Irving, now none of them get a true workload. And at that committee, it might render all of them flex plays or worse. I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is also going to miss again dealing with that appendix issue. So we're going to come back and we're going to give you finally our best bets and our plays for Bears Eagles on a Thursday night football. Friday.
He's the fan favorite. They love talking about Stafford, the 38-year-old guy. He's the Super Bowl champ. We got the family. Any opportunity to pump McVay and Stafford as a team, they do that. They love this team. They loved Aaron Donald, and rightfully so. Best defensive player, but they love to pump up Stafford.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
When you look at Duke, you got to look at Cam Boozer. 18 points. The Bruiser, I may call him. 18 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists. I know he shot the ball 1 of 4 from 3, but he's showing his ability to really be a different player than his dad. A little bit more dynamic, a little bit more athletic.
College Basketball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Ashton Genty has been hit behind the line of scrimmage more than any player in the National Football League. Yep. So you just gave him the ball in the end zone. Do the math. How's that going to work out?
It's like what I
He
said earlier.
got hit behind the line of scrimmage. He got tackled in the end zone.
Yeah.
Oh, they're terrible. But the thing is, Brady, you draft offensive linemen before you draft a star running back. Like they went backwards.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Goff and Mahomes were never taken serious. Kurtz won't be even if they're the 1 seed. Jonathan Taylor plays running back. Stop. Mahomes lost the head-to-head to Josh. Can I confidently eliminate every single person booked behind Josh Allen to at least beat out Josh Allen? So I'm in a head-to-head with Stafford May?
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
All right, we're only about 10 minutes away from kickoff of Bears Eagles. So George and I are going to give you our best bets here for the game. First of all, it looks, George, like we're all on the same page here, okay? What I'm going to do, I like the Eagles to win. That number of a full 7 does kind of scare me. I don't think this is going to be an offensive game. So I took the alternate, and I took the Eagles down below a field goal. Eagles minus 2.5, and then I boost up the total a little bit and go under it. So Eagles minus 2.5 and under 47.5 points. You can get that at better than even money at plus 105. I told you about Saquon Barkley. I think this is Saquon bounce back against a bad run defense of the Chicago Bears. I like his rushing yards in the 70s. I like his longest rush to go over 16.5 yards. And then, George, we were talking about it. If this game goes the way we are talking about, Caleb Williams is going to force it on some level. And at minus 105, you can get Caleb Williams to throw a pick. That's what I am going here on this prime Black Friday game between Bears and Eagles. What do you say?
Have no issues with your bets here. You've convinced me about Caleb Williams. I'm going to take the interception as well there. I might have looked found it anyway, but I didn't have it pregame yet. But I'm going to take that as well. I mentioned I'm going to take his rushing yardage over 21.5. I just think, once again, he's going to have to move the change with his legs. Just going to have to do it there. As far as the game itself, listen, we're not laying 4-1. All right. I think the Eagles are going to win the game, but I'm not laying 4-1 here. That being said, I like my teasers. All right. I'll bring it down to 1 for the Eagles to win here, and I'll take the over 36.5. All right. I think this game's going to be scored some points. I do. I'm surprised it's so low here. It makes me want to listen. We live in New York here. It's cool. It's around 40. It is breezy. And I imagine Philadelphia's pretty close to the same here. So maybe that's why it's going to be a little hard to throw the ball here. But you can't tell me they're not going to get over 36, not going to get 37 points combined here. All right. I don't think it's going to be over 50 or anything like that, but I think it's going to be over 36. So I'll take that as well here. I do have various, by the way, parlays with hockey games. There's a million hockey games tonight here. Taking the Eagles there, and I have a couple of hockey games as well here. Bottom line is this. It hurts to say, if the Eagles lose today, probably not going to be a happy Black Friday for me here. So I guess for Kevin Walsh, fly, Eagles, fly.
I'm with that, George. But you know what's interesting? It sounds like we both want to get a little bit safer, right? And tease that number down with Philadelphia. Interesting. I took the total up and went under it. You took the total down and went over it. Our good friends, Gabe Morency and Cam Stewart, used to always do the thing where, like, you tease it in all directions, all game, you know? Do you think the four-way teaser could actually work here, right? If this is a Eagles win within, like, 13 points and the game total stays kind of in the number we are talking about, over a low number in the 30s like you're talking about, under a bigger number, like touching 50, that I'm talking about. Should we get on the horn and tell our Canadian friends who may not be celebrating Thanksgiving, George, should we tell our Canadian friends that the four-way teaser is in play on this one?
First off, Gabe and Cam are crazy. All right. Absolutely.
Well, we know that, but we're still thankful for them, George.
Absolutely, great guys. Yeah, Cam loves his middles, right? And he loves to play all that stuff. It's something I fool around with on a night like when that's the only game going on here. It's like I don't have to fool around this today. I got plenty of NHL to keep me occupied all night here, though there's no late NHL, which kind of annoys me here. But no, I'm not going to go that crazy. There's plenty of in-game bets here. All right, which something I'll certainly be looking at here. We're going to see how the totals are going here. You keep going. You've got me on Barkley too, by the way. So I'm going to end up putting over on his rushing total as well here. We're going to have some fun this afternoon. We are going to have some fun. Bottom line, I want to see some points. As far as I didn't mention anytime touchdowns. By the way, Dane, if we're saying Barkley's going to do all this damage, shouldn't we have Barkley to get to the end zone? I have Hurts, of course. I always have Jalen Hurts.
They got the push though, you know, and they vulture Saquon. As fantasy guys, we know this so much, right? But I'm with you, and that's why I might even engage a little ladder prop on Saquon Barkley if I like him, and I do. Again, the Bears 5.2 yards a carry allowed, 30th in the NFL, 2.7 yards allowed before contact, 29th in the NFL. Explosive run rate allowed at 14%, fourth worst in the NFL. And if he breaks one, you know, all we need, George, is the 65-yard touchdown run, and we get the touchdown, we get the rushing prop, we get the ladder, we get the longest rush, and I am thinking that this Bears defense will give at least one up to Saquon. So, George, let's ladder him all the way up to 150.
Go Saquon, go, right? Solve your problems here. By the way, a little PSA. I believe this game is free on Amazon, so you don't have to have Amazon there. So I believe it's free. I heard today they're expecting a pretty high audience to watch this game. So don't forget you can watch the game even if you don't have a subscription to Amazon. So game starts in about 5 minutes here. Yep. Hope everybody enjoys here. Have a great weekend. I'm back tomorrow on Fantasy Sports Today with Craig Mish at 8 a.m. Lucky me. Craig and I will be going over the rest of week 13 for everybody. In fantasy, could be the last week until fantasy playoffs there, Dane. So good luck to everybody. Have a great weekend.
Good luck to you as well, George. And keep it locked. George just talked about making some live bets. If you want to make some live bets as well, in-game live for these Eagles and Bears are up next. It'll be Joe Ranieri and Tom Vecchio on the call of this one. So if you want to get in, see something, say something with those live bets. But, you know, build some tempos with what George and I just said. Hope everybody have a great Thanksgiving and incredible Black Friday. Eagles Bears is up next. We'll see you. It's smarter to be on the grid.
The play is Our Fam. You don't know about Our Fam? Go look her up on social media. Go look at YouTube. 19-year-old from Spain, 6'6", block shots, runs the floor, rebounds, post up, inside, outside, pop the corn, serve the beer, and it can clean up the mess when you're done eating your meal. This lady is absolutely fantastic.
Pro Basketball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Huge number out there on Cason Wallace to win Defensive Player of the Year at 500-1. That is worth your attention. And a number that I talked about before the season that I still think should be lower is Mark Daigneault to win Coach of the Year at 11-1 in the NBA. If they win 70, he's a lock for top 3. If they win 73, it's his.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
What are those things called?
A shooting star.
Yeah, okay, I'll go with that one. Like it just burns up quick. And you love it while you can see it, and bing, it's gone in the blink of an eye.
Right.
That's my fear for Cam Scattergood.
Yeah, and that's not a big deal, but I will say it's weird, and it seems like he really enjoys that attention, which is all fine because he's a young guy.
Yeah.
But possibly dangerous in a city like New York.
The Craig Carton Show. Only on SportsGrid.
Close to $1 million in volume being traded right now on the Offensive Player of the Year. If you did put $100 down on Jonathan Taylor, that would pay back $143, so a 43% increase on your money that you had. There are a lot of long shots in here, but it doesn't feel like those would be good bets. Like, hey, I'm going to put it on Justin Herbert. Well, yeah, if Justin Herbert wins it, Joe, a $100 wager would pay back $10,000. They even have a market for if you want to bet Malik Neighbors.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.